so this is an entire front shoulder off the mule deer. There's a roast that we take out from underneath this knuckle here, and then on the shoulder blade itself there is a set of flat iron steaks, and really the rest of it just gets taken off for burger. So these will usually be hanging on a hook. Come in from just under this knuckle, slide down the bone until I get to the joint, and then I come straight down here and take this piece off. The shoulder blade then can be separated at the knuckle. There's the blade. The rest of the arm will just be turned into hamburger, which we'll do separately. So here's these two pieces off the blade. We typically make a roast out of this little piece here. Okay, we just separated our front shoulder into 3 pieces. This is going to be the roast. This is the blade, which we'll take apart separately, and here's the rest of the forearm, which will just be stew meat and hamburger. The shoulder roast. It's always going to look just like this when it comes off. What we do is, in order to get rid of this big piece here, separating, trying to make this piece of silver skin all one thing, and then take that off. That's going to be processed down to hamburger. That's got a little bit of arrow hole in it, but this is what the roast is going to look like. The technique for cleaning this roast is to come in from your freshly cut side with your sharp knife, and you're going to come just underneath this piece of silver skin here. Once you've got enough that you can get a hold of, you don't want to pull it up, you want to pull it back. Keep it firm and angle your blade slightly upward. And in just a few strokes that piece will come off. If you went a little too deep and you missed just a little bit, you can take it off here. And the standard wipe before you flip your piece. And you do the same thing on the other side. Come in from your fresh cut edge. Get a nice clean line underneath the top dried out part. There's a little bit of a tendon you'll have to cut through, so we have to apply some force to get through the tendon. Okay, and there's the roast. Looks good. If you take those pieces off, again, it's almost pretty common that you might get a little extra. So that's what we're trying to be thorough and not wasting. Quickly get what you missed. Okay, that's the roast. On to the rest of the shoulder blade. So I like to start with the underside. This is the outside of the blade, this is the inside. It's typical that you're gonna, sometimes it's dried out, sometimes it's not. But I want to start with the inside. And what I do for this inside piece is take just the tip of my knife and slide down the bone. The bone actually has a little dip right there. Fillet that flat off the bone. Get this inside piece off. Then I can flip it over. As you can see, the outside of it is dirty and contaminated, and that will usually be the case. Then I can take my knife and fillet down this tendon and get this little piece off. On an elk, this is big enough that we'll actually make a steak out of it. Off this deer, it's so tiny that we pretty much just throw it in the burger bucket. That's gone. Okay. Then you're going to flip over to the outside. Sometimes this little flap is on here, sometimes it's not. If it is, you got to take it off. That'll be burger. This piece on the wider, flatter piece here is the flat iron steak. So what I like to do is, while this is still attached to the bone, come in from the outside edge, get underneath that crusty skin, fillet that back. All the way to this ridge bone here. That's clean enough. If you miss a little bit in the bucket. Then, now that I've got it cleaned, I take a straight knife on the edge of the bone. Removing this piece from the bone. Set this aside. These are the flat iron steaks. The way we take them apart, it's pretty typical that you're going to have a few little pieces of tendon and whatnot here. I'll take that piece off, that goes to the stew bucket. So in the middle of this is a big, mostly flat tendon that runs through. So what we're trying to do and what we're going to do is remove the tendon. I make a little handle at the skinny end of the tendon so I can have some tension on the tendon. I like to use my straight knife for this. The tendon looks flat when it's out, but it doesn't actually lay flat in the middle. So this is one of the trickier pieces to get without messing it up. So what I do is I slide my tip of my blade down the outside edge of that tendon. Just the edge, not all the way through, because you won't get it. So there it is exposed, and then once you do, you can then kind of go to the middle and then follow it around to the outside edge. That's the flat iron steak, one of them. But you've got this. The other one's much easier to remove because now you've got the tendon flat on the table. Same thing. Make a little handle where I can keep some tension on the tendon itself. A little bit of finesse there. And those two cutlets are the flat iron steaks. Off an elk, they're much larger. They're small off a deer, but we'll take the two from one shoulder and the two from the other shoulder and make one very nice little packet of flat iron cutlets. Okay, so this is what's left of the shoulder blade after we've taken off the underside piece, removed the flat iron and cleaned it. Then you've got this outside piece here. This is 99 times out of 100 just going to be made burger. You've got this bone in the middle here. I'm using a straight knife instead of my curved knife to separate this piece. Down the bone. Off to the side, always being careful not to point my knife at myself. That's it, blade's gone. Now I've got my outside dirty edge here I want to remove. It's this filleting motion back and forth that is really the bulk of the job as far as removing the pieces that are contaminated and dirty and need to be gotten rid of to expose the clean meat underneath. Again, if I take too much, all this is going to be burger. Lay the tendon flat, scrape off the usable meat, get rid of the tendon. Same thing with this guy here. Then on this third piece of the shoulder, there is a real big thick piece of tendon. This is going to be burger, but we try to open this up from the underside. Slide my knife along the edge of this tendon, and this piece can be removed for burger. And this big piece of tendon here can then be laid flat on the table, and the meat can be easily removed from the tendon. And that is the end of the shoulder.